Over the past couple of years, we've covered a few of the many high-end Mazda rotary engines that Melbourne performance workshop, Promaz Automotive, pieces together for a variety of street and race applications. This time around, we're going to follow one of the more sought-after Mazdas, the RX7 Spirit R, during a complete engine overhaul and power-up. The third generation RX7 FD platform has long been considered the pinnacle of Mazda rotary performance. In Australia, the SP model was created for endurance production car racing, with around 30 examples offered to the public, while in Japan, the swan-song Spirit R was created and limited to around 1,500 units, available in 3 different models. The car we are following here is the Type A variant, a 2-seater weighing in at just 1,270 kilos. The Promaz team has already removed and stripped the engine after a not-so-great diagnosis, so now it's time for a total revamp. So Simon, we're up to doing some of the porting of the engine. Do you want to just run through what you're doing?
So basically, everything gets done by hand on all the cast iron plates, except for the CNC cutting of the bridge or marking of the extend. So that still gets done in the CNC, and then we hand finish it from there on. Today we're doing a bit of bridge porting and also exhaust ports.
And this is actually quite a long process, isn't it?
Oh, it's a good day. It's a good day.
Yeah, but you like doing it, yeah?
I love it.
Love it.
It's
all right,
really good.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, this is a standard exhaust port, okay, which we're going to start porting now. So you can see a bit of the porting, but this is one we've done a bit earlier. Yeah, so this is just to give you an idea of a standard port on an FD or a Cosmo. So that's a standard Cosmo center plate, and that's an extend port with the bridge. Small bridge, we don't do anything massive.
You can see there the difference, yeah?
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, you can see the secondaries, these have been extend ported and obviously bridged, so that's a huge difference.
Yeah, that's
even
massive.
to the primaries that we've done. And you'll notice on the billet plates, the secondary port is the primary port as well. That's the difference between a FD and a Cosmo port.
So the Cosmo, if you had your choice, is the one to go for?
Yeah, definitely. Look, for low down drivability, you wouldn't believe it, but even the Series 4.5, being a smaller port, they actually drive a little bit better. We've run 8s with 8 seconds on a Series 4.5 block. But these are more for high RPM. Yeah, so the bigger the port, the more it brings the power curve up.
Yeah, a bit like a camshaft.
Exactly like a camshaft. Yeah, exactly. So that's why bridge ports, you do a big bridge, you got more overlap.
But being turbocharged, it doesn't, and a street car doesn't need to be.
No, it doesn't need to be. They just mainly want the pulse anyway.
The pulse.
The bridge. Yeah, the pulse if you're from New Zealand. And New Zealanders, we've got to do even a bigger one. They love it. When we're cutting aluminium, we use a coarse carbide bit. That'll cut away a lot of material nice and quickly. And then we can start finishing it with some Norton products. So yeah, you'll see us start using different burrs and finishing tools. When we're porting, we've got to try and not cut away too much where it starts hitting the stainless steel sleeve, because always your flame will hit that stainless steel sleeve and burn it out after a while. Okay, at this stage it looks pretty rough, very rough. So now we're just going to deburr all the edges. You can see the finished product's a lot smoother now, thanks to our little sanding wheels from Norton. These are the ones. So we use some worn out ones to get in there. The bigger the ports, the bigger you need.
That's a bit of a monster.
That's a ripper, isn't it? Definitely won't fit in a port. Yeah, so basically, without boring you too much, we're gonna vernier them up and check our measurements and stuff like that. So that's the exhaust port side of it. The intake port, so basically once we get it back from the CNC, our extend port's marked out and our bridge port is cut. But then what we do inside is we taper the port to lead into the bridge port, just to help them down low. Obviously under boost, it's going to push it through and then go wherever it needs to. But just down low, it'll help the airspeed get into that bridge port and help that idle and help the flow down low basically, because under boost it won't matter. And the main thing, people say, oh, you need it to flow great, you need all this flow and everything like that. But the main restriction is what no one realizes is nothing to do with the engine. The engine's not the restriction. And I wonder if people can guess what it is. We'll see if they can work out what the restriction will be on most street cars.
With all porting and machining completed, Simon was ready for the engine assembly. Simon, in our last video, the hero of the video was this little.
A
lot of people were asking him what it was.
Well, it's just a sealant. This one's a hardening sealant, and we use a non-hardening on the O-rings. Yeah, I've used it forever. But just the brushes are terrible. Look at that.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. It's probably been around for 50 years, this stuff.
So this engine we're putting together, it's very, I guess what you'd call OE, isn't it? There's not really...
we've done a lot of mods and stuff to the rotors.
Yeah.
Plates, obviously bridge ported it, you can see there. Yeah. The apex seals are aftermarket. Yeah. We use an aftermarket apex seal, unbreakable. Okay. It's just a wise thing to do these days. I like using this sealant because if there's any imperfections in the material, it helps seal, and it does protect the O-ring a lot more than like Vaseline does.
That surface has come up very nice, Simon.
Yeah, so we machine them in-house, send them for nitriding, and brings them up to brand new. Always do a bit of coating of oil on the plates.
So, tell us a little bit about the preparation on the rotors, because a lot of this stuff is what takes time, not so much the assembly, isn't it?
So the preparation really is the side seals and that. That's probably what you're talking about. But what I want to show you is the side clearancing. So you can see there's extra machine marks. So we side clearance the whole rotor, and then we give it extra at the tips. Because what usually happens is, on high revs, high boost, the eccentric shaft will move, the rotor will move and want to touch the side plate. So we just give it some extra clearance to help that. And you would have seen on our last one, and we can do face clearancing, but face clearancing, you were talking over 1,000 horsepower. Yeah. It'll start bending the crank. Well, really 800, then it starts really bending the crank. We linish our eccentric shafts. You can see it's all nicely linished. Slips in beautifully. So I always wash the apex seals with thinners to keep them nice and dry, because we're actually going to super glue the assist pieces to them. Because the aftermarket seals don't come pre-glued.
Why is that?
Some aftermarket seals come pre-glued, these ones don't. And a lot of people assemble their engines with the assist piece off, but I like to assemble it with it glued on. Mm-hmm. So what happens is once you put the engine together, it breaks the super glue off and tensions itself into the rotor housing. So here we just run an apex seal through, make sure everything's lined up nice and neat. So this engine's a studded engine. Let's see that O-ring. Always have a look, make sure everything's all right. That's it, put it down. Some genuine apex seal springs. Okay, so now that we've got that done, the center plate time. O-rings are. Good.
What model's the most common engine you think you do these days, Simon?
FDs.
Yeah.
Yeah. FDs are probably the most common that we do packages and everything in. And RX8s are starting now too a lot. Like now we've got 3 turbo kits to do.
RX8 turbo kits.
Yeah. And 2 to put FD motors in them. Just from the apex seal through. So the corner seals are all lined up. So these are some aftermarket billet dowels that we use. Stronger than the factory ones.
So Simon, give us a bit of background into this engine.
It was previously built by someone else and studded. We're using his old studs because the depth of the stud and the taper for the O-ring is very important. But unfortunately, whoever made these studs, we've got to double nut it. With the Billet Pro studs, they've got a hex key in the end, we can just wind them down nicely. But I won't be putting this because of the depth. Yeah. So the depth's wrong to our stud. Mm-hmm. So when you actually do the threads in the front plate, that determines the position of your stud. But yeah, the lengths are quite different.
They are, aren't they? Up close.
Yeah. So whoever studded it has done the front plate to suit their stud.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Because we're putting a Garrett Advancing Motion G42 on it.
Yeah.
1200 horsepower compact. So you'll see that in the coming videos.
Is that common, to stud an engine and not port it?
Yeah. With FD motors, you could put 600 horsepower through them.
Yeah.
Without studying or
anything. Really?
Yeah. The cast material is quite strong in them. So you don't have to worry about any of that.
So they got that engine pretty spot on and then that was it, no more.
What happened was the Series 4s, they made a Series 4, so straight from a 12A they went to a 13B, and they thought they'd save some cost on material.
Okay.
And even factory they were cracking. I remember, in the 90s, people coming in with FCs standard, and they'd crack the rear dowel area. So then in the Series 5, they actually put more material around that dowel area.
Oh, I've heard the Series 5 engine is a better one.
Yeah, and then the Series 6, they actually put even more.
So for overseas friends, a lot of people they just talk FD.
They talk Turbo 2.
Turbo 2, you're right, yes.
Turbo 2. So for overseas people, it's Turbo 2. And yeah, so Turbo 2, I don't know what they call Series 4 and 5, because they're both Turbo 2s. But yeah, Turbo 2 to an FD, the FD block is it's got a lot more material everywhere, and it's a lot stronger block, because then it was twin turboed.
Of course.
So they needed to make sure that their engines weren't going to crack. So you really didn't need to stud them. Back almost 20 years ago, we ran an FD just with a mild port. We ran 10.3 down the quarter.
That was the red one,
I think you videoed it.
Yeah, I filmed it. We'll probably be able to dig up some B-roll footage of that.
Yeah.
That would be back like 2002, I don't know, 2003 maybe?
I'll tell you now, I was on my honeymoon when he raced it, and at the time it was the fastest FD street car.
It was, wasn't it?
In the country. So the customer was very happy with that. Wasn't studded. It had a really small extend-port. Standard seals, standard everything. Just with a small T4 on it.
That was all factory driveline?
All factory driveline.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He didn't do too many passes where he didn't break the drive shafts.
Yeah.
The drive shafts.
But that's a good example of where if you don't get greedy, the car can be quite good. And you haven't spent a hell of a lot of money to get to that point, and then people end up spending a truckload more to go not a lot faster.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I reckon you can probably dip them into the 9-second bracket without even studding them. They run a really good 60 foot very easily, those cars. They're very fast out of the hole with the IRS.
We've got a double wishbone.
Yeah, and you can fit a massive tyre under there, like 11.5. Also, when you've got a engine that's been studded previously and you put new housings like we've done, getting the pattern of the studding is a bit tricky too.
Do you have to number the studs when they come out, or?
No, definitely not. They're all the same length, they're all the same size.
Yeah.
There's no numbering. But there's a sequence for assembly.
So did this car have a turbo, an upgraded, was it a single, still twin?
It was single when it came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a single turbo, but all really old.
Yeah.
Really old school
Was the
stuff.
engine, was it still running, or?
Well, it came in because it was losing a little bit of water.
Yeah.
That's how this whole project started. So we got it on the hoist. We pressure tested the cooling system overnight, and when we pulled the spark plugs out the next morning, a whole heap of cooling came out. So that started the strip and rebuild. And then from there, Ryan started talking about doing more modifications to it. But when we stripped the motor, we found some hectic damage. I was surprised to it as well.
So what are these, Simon?
These are his old rotors that came out
Yeah.
of it. You can see, so we stripped it for a water seal issue, and there was water seal damage, but I'm not sure if you can see the dint in there.
Yeah.
Can you make that dint out? So it's detonated at some stage. It still ran. Broken corner seals, all from detonation. So the dints in the rotors are detonation. So it's leaned out at some stage or over boosted. Look at the dint on that. Hectic.
Far out.
So yeah, these rotors have been lightened in the past by someone. Well, it looks good. As I said, I don't really lighten them. The rotors that we put in now are Series 4 turbo rotors, which are lower compression.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8.4 to 1 compared to the 9.0 to 1 in the FD. Allows you to run more boost safely on pump fuel or whatever you...
What fuel setup are you going to put in?
It's going to be pump 98 with like a methanol injection system.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll probably run around the 20 pounder boost.
Don't forget to order your track merchandise. We've got an awesome new 25 years of full boost. Yes, that's right, 25 years we've been doing this. Old school boost gauge. We've got these in t-shirts and hoodies, so get on it at shop.fullboost.com.au. In our next instalment on this RX7 Spirit R build, the Promaz team gets the engine into the car, along with some quality upgrades, and then onto the dyno for initial tuning. A bottle of that black Vegemite.